Sometimes it takes something bad to happen to wake us up. We've all seen things. And in my 21 years in law enforcement, I saw something over and over and over. Most tragedies, they don't come out of nowhere. They come from just small things that were ignored, like a door left unlocked, just a gut feeling that was dismissed, maybe a camera that wasn't working, a pattern that nobody paid attention to. And now turning 60, I see life differently. I feel the aging process. I feel my body slowing down a little bit. And I feel my mind getting more cautious. Maybe even a little more weary at times. But here's what I've learned. Getting older, it doesn't mean getting careless. If anything, it means getting more vigilant. When you work in law enforcement for 2 decades, you see humanity at its best and at its worst. You respond to scenes where people say, I never thought that it would happen here. And they meant it. They weren't bad people. They weren't reckless people. They were just comfortable, and comfort can be dangerous. Most tragedies that I investigated, they weren't caused by one massive catastrophic mistake. They were caused by a chain of reaction of small overlooked details. Like the door, that was usually locked, but it wasn't that night. The suspicious behavior that felt off, but nobody wanted to overreact. And the routine that never changed. So someone out there studied it. And what stuck with me over the years, it wasn't fear. It was just responsibility. And that responsibility didn't end when I took the uniform off. It followed me home. Yes, I was more responsible being in law enforcement in the things that I've seen, in the cases that I've worked. It made me more aware. It made me more protective. And a lot of people don't have that opportunity because you don't see it every day. And when you don't see these kind of things every day, you don't think about it. You don't think that bad things can happen to good people. So when my kids were growing up, I didn't live paranoid, but I just lived aware. I made sure that our doors were locked. And I installed cameras around the house. And I just paid attention to patterns in the neighborhood. Say, for instance, a vehicle that I'm not used to seeing. I live on a road with only 4 houses, and it's a dead end road. If I see a car come through there and want to turn around in my circle driveway, I paid attention. I tried to get a license plate number, the color and description, just in case, because you don't never know. So you pay attention to your neighborhood. I taught my kids to trust their instincts. Don't be afraid, but you've got to be alert. And there's a big difference. I've seen what happens when people just assume it won't happen to me, because most people feel that way. It won't happen to me. That mindset is very dangerous, especially today, in today's society, because it's everywhere. That mindset is just dangerous. Be, you know, predators, whether they're criminals, scammers, manipulators, they look for vulnerabilities. So they look for isolation. They look for predictability. They look for weak security. No lights around your house, no cameras. Trust me, if they're going to come to your house and do anything, they're going to scope it out. Nowadays, there's cameras on most residences. So it's more difficult for burglars to burglarize a home and not be caught, because they don't know if there's a subscription to that uh, camera system or not. And if it is, it could alert the police. It could alert you on your phone. Someone is approaching. Like my phone, I have the Ring camera on my door. And I also have the Blink system around my house. I have two systems. And I have a subscription to both. And when someone approaches my front door, it pops up on my phone and I can see who it is. And if someone walks around my house, it pops up on my phone, on my Blink app, and I can see. So they look for isolation. They look for people that can be predicted. I can predict what they're doing every day because I've watched them. And they look for weak security around your home and just emotional distractions. You know, as we age, we can slowly become more vulnerable. Not because we're incapable, but just because we just all get comfortable. You know, you're over 60 years old. We shouldn't have to worry anymore. We've spent a lifetime worrying about our jobs, our families, our kids, paying the bills. You know, we just have a tendency to be more comfortable. And that is what we should. We should be comfortable, but we still should be, we just need to be more aware. You know, listen, now let me be honest with you about this. Turning 60, it hits different, and it hits different for everybody. You start noticing things more because you're slowing down, and it's like you can see things differently. It's really because of your experience over the years. You have experienced things. So when you turn 60 and beyond that, you start seeing things differently. You know, you don't bounce back quite as fast anymore. Your energy is nothing like it was whenever I was 35. It sure ain't. And your body, it reminds you that it's time for moving. You know, you need to move. And whenever you get those feelings in your body, you need to act on them. You need to move. So sometimes you feel a little more tired, a little more worn down. It's all natural. This is natural. We're all feeling it in our 60s. And here's where we have to be careful. We cannot let age turn into disengagement. Just because we're over 60 don't mean that we have to separate ourselves from everything that's going on and just disengage from everything. You know, to me, turning 60 means you need to be more engaged. You need to enjoy more life. We cannot let I'm older now turn into I'll just let it go, because we can't do that. Because, the world, it hasn't softened just because we've gotten older. If anything, the world's become more complex. Scammers, they're smarter nowadays. Technology is faster. And it's good. Technology is good whenever you use it properly. Criminal tactics, they evolve. People figure things out. They figure criminals are smarter today. You know, older adults are often targeted specifically because criminals, they just assume that we have slower reaction, more trust, less awareness of digital threats, and financial stability. That's reality. And ignoring reality, it doesn't make it safer. Now, excuse me, let me be very clear here. This is not about living scared. We should not live in fear. No, it's just about living smarter. You know, there's a difference between paranoia and preparedness. Paranoia says something bad is going to happen, and it may, but you know, things can happen. Bad things are always going to happen, and mostly to good people. But it don't mean that it's going to happen to you. So you shouldn't be paranoid all the time. Preparedness says if something happens, I'm not caught off guard. You got to be prepared at all times. We always need to be prepared. You know, one steals your presence, the other protects it. Vigilance is love. Locking your doors, that's love. Installing cameras, that is love. In, you know, checking in on your elderly neighbors, that is love. We need to do more of this. You know, teaching your grandkids awareness, that is love. Being physically strong as long as you can, that's love. Because the truth is, when we stop paying attention, we slowly increase our vulnerability. That's a hard word for me to say. Vulnerability. You know, we slowly increase it. And vulnerability, it attracts the wrong kind of attention. At 60, you are not weaker. You know, you're more aware of weakness, and that's maturity. You understand your physical limitations more clearly today. You understand time is different, and you understand it differently. You understand consequences more deeply. And that awareness should sharpen your discipline, not dull it. We can't stop aging. That's a fact. But we can stay physically active and mentally sharp. We can stay engaged in our communities and maintain, you know, security habits. And we can also continue learning. Just because we're 60 and above don't mean that we stop learning, because we learn more because of the experience that we gained the past 60 years. You know, you continue learning. Age does not dictate our awareness. No. I've seen 80 and 90-year-old people more aware today than they were in their, I don't know that I'd go back as far as 20s and 30s, but listen, they are aware. So age, it should not refine us. Here's the hard truth that law enforcement taught me. There are people in this world who, you know, they look for easy targets. That's not negativity. That's just the reality of life. That is reality, folks. And if we allow ourselves to become careless, physically, mentally, emotionally, we just increase our risk. But if we stay vigilant, if we maintain discipline, if we refuse to let aging equal vulnerability, then we are strong. And strong doesn't always mean muscles. Strong means awareness, prepared, intentional, and safety. You know, sometimes bad things have to happen to wake people up. But the goal is to learn. The goal is to learn from what we see, not wait until it happens to us. I've seen tragedy. I have seen complacency. And I've seen what preparedness can prevent. At 60, I'm not retreating from life. I'm going to protect it with more intention than ever. So listen, stay vigilant, stay aware, protect what matters to you. And don't ever let age dictate your strength. Now, if this video has helped you in any way, go ahead and like it for me. Thank you for that. Like my video. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss our future content. Stay vigilant, stay aware, protect what matters most, and don't ever let age dictate your strength. I'll see you all in that next video.